into fancy living rooms, and in fact, I think is happening this weekend. There's some people going into fancy living rooms and doing donor retreats for their elite donors, and and they give them campaign briefings. This campaign, of course, being a grassroots campaign, I think deserves a more transparent, open briefing for everybody and anyone who wants to be a part of this movement, and that is the theory and the conception behind everything we're doing here on this campaign, and why I think it's important for us to do a campaign briefing update that is live stream and accessible to all. I'm coming to you on a Sunday night here in Washington, D.C., as from the campaign headquarters, where we are all still working because they're starting tomorrow, 2 weeks left to go till the Iowa caucus. 2 weeks left to go. And I think today, let me check my watch here real quick. It is January 19th today, which means it is 11 months on the day since we started this campaign. In fact, Bernie Sanders launched his campaign on February 19th, and what a ride it has been. And here we are, 2 weeks to go till the Iowa caucus, and all of the work that we have put into it for many, many months will show up here at the end, and knock on wood, we will have a strong caucus showing, and I believe we will 2 weeks from tomorrow. I'm happy to take some questions, so if you have questions, please shoot them to us, and I'm happy to take some at the end of some of the remarks I have. So tomorrow is a holiday in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, someone who is a deep inspiration to Bernie Sanders, not only because of his loud advocacy for civil rights, successful advocacy for civil rights, but because of a holistic view of society that he had about all the injustices in it. So economic injustice issues across the board, whether it was healthcare or wages, fighting for housing in America, of course, fighting against wars and unjustified wars. Dr. Martin Luther King was a moral leader for all of us, an inspiration, and certainly, I think, within the DNA of our movement, somebody who we all admire and respect greatly, and so we'll be honoring him tomorrow. I'll be honoring him by working, so we'll be, Bernie Sanders will be in South Carolina tomorrow morning to deliver remarks commemorating Dr. King, and so I hope you'll watch that. He'll start his morning in South Carolina, and then from there he will get to Iowa, and he'll attend a presidential Black and Brown forum, and then culminate with a rally in Des Moines tomorrow evening. So that's 3 events in a day. We pack them in. That's the way Senator wants it. He's working very hard, as we all are, to make sure we are giving everything we've got to this effort. The one thing I also want to stress here is that this is a not me, us campaign, as all of you know, and at probably no other time will the not me, us brand and the ethos be more important than in the next 2 weeks, because it is possible that Bernie Sanders will be locked in D.C. Doing his constitutional duty in Senate impeachment hearings in a trial. And so during that period of time, he may not be able to travel as much as we would like. He may not be able to be in Iowa as much as he would like, though we are working on plans to ensure he can kind of get in and get out. In fact, one night, hopefully next Wednesday, we're anticipating he would actually fly out of D.C. And go to an event in Iowa that evening, and then turn right back around and fly back to D.C. that same evening, so that he can be ready for the next day of Senate proceedings. And so that's how committed he is to working. We're also working on a number of other options to make sure he's pushing as aggressively as he can to get his voice heard in Iowa in these last 2 weeks. But it's going to be a challenge, and that's okay. As with everything on this campaign, when adversity has hit us, we have only come out of it stronger. I am confident that the collective movement of people who are devoting their time, energy, and resources, that's staff, that's co-chairs, that's surrogates, volunteers all across the board, are going to pick up for Bernie Sanders and make sure that we are giving it giving it our all to ensure we win Iowa. So I want to thank everybody out there who is traversing very cold climbs. So there's some very snowy terrain out there that I know a lot of our field organizers are traversing to knock on doors. I know so many volunteers who've come from out of state into Iowa to help the effort are weathering some difficult conditions also in New Hampshire and around the country. So I want to thank everybody for making a sacrifice to help us on this campaign. We are also in the midst in this last 2 weeks of silly season. So you should anticipate that there will be, as the senator said, quote unquote media games. And that is there will be efforts to distract us, to try to play gotchas and try to drag us into unnecessary conversations. And I think my message to all of us internally and to you externally is that we have to stay positive, we have to stay focused, and we have to stay disciplined. I'll say it over and over again, stay positive, stay focused, stay disciplined. It's really critical. We have worked very hard for a long period of time doing those things. We cannot get distracted now. And I want to thank everyone, for ensuring that, especially in these last 2 weeks, we are living the values of Bernie Sanders and focusing on the things that people care deeply about, and not getting sucked into, Twitter fights that just aren't going to be helpful to this campaign. We are gaining momentum. I hope you'll feel it out there. I don't know if any of you have been watching some of these events in New Hampshire. I think we've done a series of events over this weekend out there, and each of them has drawn 1,000, like somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 people. It's really strong showings out there in New Hampshire. Thank you to everyone in New Hampshire showed up in some pretty rough weather to these events, and we're feeling really good about what's going on there. We also have some wonderful surrogate events going on in Iowa. There was actually recently we hosted a soccer tournament there in Iowa that attracted a lot of people who are not normally caucus goers. So we're excited about finding new approaches on this campaign to bringing people into the political process. We are fortunate that a number of you have stepped up and given a number of small dollar donations that are helping us be in good stead as we head into this critical month of the campaign. You obviously know the grassroots donors of this campaign came up big for us in the fourth quarter, $34.5 million raised. You've continued that here in the first part of quarter one, or basically all of January. So we've gotten through the middle of the month. We are doing well. Thank you all for your support. I'm trying to be a good steward on behalf of all of the donors, a good steward of the money that we're getting in. We are spending it to put TV ads up. We're doing radio ads. We're doing digital ads, all kinds of paid communications. There's a bunch of postcards. To those of you who participated in our postcard campaign, we did a program where we asked people to join in house parties across the country and write out handwritten postcards addressed to potential Iowa caucus goers, and about why they would like to support Bernie Sanders. We ended up getting 150,000 postcards handwritten by people around this country that we are going to deliver by mail to people in Iowa. So thank you to everyone who participated in that effort. So anyways, going back to my earlier point, we're trying to use the money wisely and do so in a way that helps Bernie Sanders win. And so thank you again for every donation you're giving. So in addition to the momentum we're getting on the financial side and the volunteer side, we're honored to get the endorsements of the two Progressive Caucus co-chairs this week. That's Mark Pocan from Wisconsin and Pramila Jayapal from Washington State. Really big endorsements. Obviously, both of them key progressive champions in their own rights, leaders on Medicare for All, Green New Deal, and a host of other progressive issues. So we really appreciate them lending their voice to this campaign, their support. In fact, I'll be in Iowa tomorrow, where Congresswoman Jayapal will be speaking at a Des Moines event. And I think that's 5 o'clock tomorrow. I think that's at 5 o'clock Des Moines time. It might be 6 o'clock Eastern time. So hope you'll tune in and watch that. I think that'll be a great event. As we head into the weekend, we're anticipating that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will be helping us out and being in Iowa next weekend, and hopefully Senator Sanders will be able to make it. We're not sure yet because the impeachment proceedings may alter the schedule a bit, but we'll see how that goes. But at the very least, thank Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. She'll be out there. We know a bunch of our co-chairs on this campaign: Senator Nina Turner, Congressman Ro Khanna, Ben Cohen, and Mayor Cruz are all going to be trying to help out in any way they can over the last few days here. We've asked all of our surrogates. We have a bunch of wonderful ones. I can't even spend the time going through the giant list of them, but they're all lending their support in these final days in every which way to make sure we're flexing the muscle as hard as we can to help Bernie. I think before I take some questions, I reflect back on the fact that we have to be positive and disciplined as we head into the final stretch. Let's remember what our strategy is. We have worked very hard at it. We've stayed very crystal clear in our mind about who we're fighting for. Right? There's people out there who are struggling, who are counting on us. There is a crisis out there afflicting working families in America. Those are the people who we remember every single day, who are in the front of our minds. Those are the people who we are fighting for. Let's not forget that. Working families dealing with a healthcare crisis, a student loan crisis, affordable housing crisis. They are the ones who are counting on transformational change, and that is why we cannot get ourselves distracted. We have a nation that is struggling under debt of all kinds, whether it's medical debt or student debt, credit card debt. People are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck. For those of you who listen to every Bernie Sanders speech, know he addresses this directly. Income inequality in America, obscene levels. We're trying to fight to change a system, a rigged and corrupt system, one that inordinately benefits the wealthy and leaves everyone else out to dry. And we are trying to change our nation's values, our national priorities, so that we start focusing on those who actually need help the most. That's why we're raising issues like Social Security. That's why we're out there fighting to expand benefits for Social Security. We are proud of the record of Bernie Sanders, who has had literally for the course of his adult life, fought for economic justice, social justice, environmental justice, and racial justice. You can go back, basically any issue you care deeply about, and you find in Bernie Sanders someone whose consistency is one of the reasons that has inspired a movement to be with him for a long period of time, and a movement that is growing stronger by the day. I also say, in terms of our strategy, we have said from the outset, many reporters who might be watching will remember how many times I've said that we were comfortable from the moment this campaign launched that we were going to urge people, our supporters, all people, to go and kick the tires on other candidates, and that we believe that they would come back home to Bernie Sanders or support Bernie Sanders at the end for two main reasons: because they would believe that Bernie Sanders is the candidate they trust to make the change happen that they so desperately seek, and that Bernie Sanders is the candidate they believe is best positioned to defeat Donald Trump. And we are seeing that happen before our eyes, and it is a great validation of both the theory and the strategy that we are seeing a lot of people increasingly showing up not only to these events, but increasingly showing up with their volunteer actions, with their contributions, and hopefully, knock on wood, with their votes on caucus night or primary night. So that's where we stand, folks. And now I'm going to see if there are questions that I can address. From Periscope: should everyone fly to Des Moines? If you can fly to Des Moines, we'd love you to fly to Des Moines. We have a wonderful state director out there, Misty Rebick, who is working very hard with a bunch of staff out there who've got an out-of-state program, and everyone who's coming in, they are trying to find ways to make sure that we are strategic about all of the people who are coming in, about making sure you have the best turf to go and knock on doors. There are rural parts of Iowa that are hard to reach, that take a long period of time to kind of traverse in. So if you're able to come and assist those efforts, we of course would love as much support as we can get. Where it is really one of the strategic advantages of this campaign that few others have, which is a volunteer force that really not many others can match. And so I welcome anybody who has the time and the bandwidth to be able to go there, or quite frankly, go to New Hampshire or go to Nevada or go to South Carolina. We could use your help. And if you want to find out a way to help, just simply go to our website, berniesanders.com. There's volunteer tab, and you can join us there, and somebody will reach out to you almost immediately. From Facebook, when we see someone attacking Bernie online, what should we do? Don't take the bait. So first of all, don't allow yourself to be trolled and get yourself locked into a Facebook or Twitter conversation about something that quite frankly is going to suck up your time, energy, and mental bandwidth that could be better used in a different direction. I always tell myself, and I'd urge you, we know why we support Bernie Sanders, and we are proud to say why, and we will offer why. We will give the positive argument for our candidate. We don't need to spend a heck of a lot of time trying to get into mean, nasty back and forths with people who just simply don't agree with us. This is a movement that is open, welcoming. It is a movement of compassion, of love, and of justice, as Bernie Sanders says often. We want to give room to people to disagree with us, but we also want to make sure that that room allows them to come and support our candidate. So my view, and anytime you get locked in some of these arguments, is to remember why you support Bernie Sanders. What are the issues that drive you to be part of this movement, and to just simply talk in the affirmative and in the positive about why you are here. And of course, if people want to disagree, then we welcome their disagreement and carry on. Spend our mental bandwidth on other things. All right, another question from Twitter. What is Bernie's closing argument? We have a couple of ads that are going to, be going up here in Iowa in the next couple of weeks. You'll see them, and I don't want to preview them too much, except to say this is a moment, I think, that we have to challenge people to think big, that we can do big things in this country. For too long, I think for decades now, we've been trapped in a politics that has said you cannot do big things. We must do incremental gradualism of every various kind. Different theories suggest trickle down economics, or you can only tweak this little environmental standard here, or this little benefit for on food stamps here, or this little lunch program there. We've got to do big things because people are struggling out there, tens of millions of them. And there was periods in time in American history where we did big things, right? I mean, everything from going to the moon, or building the Hoover Dam, or do Medicare or Social Security. There's big things that this nation can accomplish. You need a leader to marshal that kind of energy, enthusiasm that we believe exists in the American public, the desire for those big change. You need a leader with vision who will fight for it, who understands that it takes a fight to accomplish these things. There are entrenched powers who currently control our economic system and our political system that stand in the way of progress. And the way we get there is we have to take on these big fights in order to accomplish big things. Are you willing to take on those fights? Or do you have the spine in those moments to fight? Will you back down, or will you stand up to the most powerful interests in this country? And I think in a nutshell, we all believe that Bernie Sanders, of really any candidate we've seen in our lifetime, will fight, will stand up, and will speak boldly on behalf of those struggling in this country. And that is why we stand with him on February 3rd in the caucus. All right. Thank you, everyone. I will be back in touch with you soon. Thank you for the questions. And until then, let's give it all we've got. Let's win this thing.